I know, I really hope you can get.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the pod. We're here, we're hot, we're heavy, we're going deep, we're going in. We're gonna
Yes,
hear
we
about
are.
all the things. We got our girl Tove back on the podcast.
Oh,
Oh my god. Dear sister, what is even happening? What's going on?
yeah. A lot is going on. So we didn't talk about it on the last podcast, but we definitely spoke about it personally that I was going through health issues.
Mhm.
Um, and my health issues are not manifesting in the same way that many people's health issues would manifest, which is both a blessing and a curse, I guess you can say.
Mhm.
So for me, I found out about a year ago that I have thyroid issues, which is something that runs in my family. But as you know, but probably those who are listening don't know, is that I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. Things are genetic. You're obviously we're predisposed to things, but these are things that, in my opinion, they're they may run through our lineages because of traumas that our lineages have experienced, rather than just because your body is not against you. Like my body's not against me. She's
Mhm.
trying to show me what's up. And so my thyroid issues manifested in me gaining a lot of weight really, really quickly. And that was very that was a very difficult thing for me, and still is a difficult thing for me to take on, because I'm a very active person. I started gaining very rapidly as I was exercising 5, 6 times a week, eating very healthy, and all of a sudden I'm just like blowing up. And I was definitely of the school of thought of like, just work out and eat healthy, it'll fix it.
Mhm.
That's not what was happening for me. So um yeah, that was the main thing that really made me realize that something's not right. um so that it comes with that, with weight gain and exhaustion. Like I'm always tired,
Mhm.
and these things are things that I'm slowly uncovering the root of and trying to figure out what the root causes, what are the emotional causes of that, which is a very long and winding journey, and it's layers and it's a never ending.
And there's so much science now that like your epigenome and just in epigenetics in general, like you're not passing down the same genome. And even if you have certain genes in your body that are from your familia, like you don't have to wake them up. And most of the time, if people go to like a cardiologist and they see a certain gene and they're like, yo, you need to go on this medication or else this could happen. Stop, excuse me. I don't want to wake it up. So I'm going to do the things that, will help prevent it from being wakened from its dormant state. And yeah, so I'm 100% there with you. But I would love to hear more about like what you think. So beyond the thyroid, like what's that next layer, or what are the layers that are really present for you that you've been working through right now?
um yeah, so it actually very unsurprisingly appeared or started manifesting in my life when I was in a very stressful time. Work was really stressful, family life, like everything was just really stressful at once. And then this started occurring. So I was just like, oh, okay. you know, it's not not surprising that that's how it happened. And what I've been working through is really figuring out what that means. So my first immediate thought, as a person who is practicing spirituality, I say that in air quotes because I don't know, that's a very umbrella term,
Mhm.
but my first thought was, the thyroid is the throat, so the throat chakra. So what is it that I'm, not speaking my truth, or not voicing, or not making heard? That was my first thought. And I think I've actually been pretty good about my throat chakra. So it feels like it's deeper than that. So that felt like a very good way to sort of enter into what it means, emotionally. And I think as I'm continuing to go through what I'm going through, it feels like it's a lot heavier than just me. And it feels like it has to do
Mhm.
with with a lot of my lineage. Like I said, it's passed down. It's something my mom had. It's something her mom had. It's something my mom's sister had. I'm sure it goes back further than that, but I don't have any knowledge of it. Um, but I think there's a lot of trauma in my lineage, as well as emotional difficulties that I've been going through with my family, with still being in a work that isn't something that's super fulfilling for me personally. And that also ties into the throat chakra, because it's not that I'm not speaking my truth, it's just that I'm moving not in my truth. So
Mm.
that has to do with it. And I don't know, it's continuous layers that I'm peeling back. It's not like a one-stop shop.
Don't we wish it was?
That would be really cool.
When you say, like, do you feel comfortable sharing your symptoms and maybe what you're exploring to develop more knowledge around that?
Yeah, so my symptoms are pretty, I would say, not, they're relatively easy for this. It can be worse. Like I said, my main symptoms, or really my only symptoms, are weight gain, really fit, like a lot of fatigue.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, when it was really, really bad, my hair was falling out like crazy.
Mhm.
That's no longer an issue. I know that other women that have suffered through, mine is hypothyroidism, I think. I don't know. I haven't actually
Mhm.
gone to a traditional doctor about it, because I just don't, my mom's been on medication for 30 plus years, and I just don't think that's a solution. So I just don't really feel like it is calling me to go to a traditional doctor, to a
Mhm.
Western doctor. So those are my main symptoms. I know other women suffer from constipation and yeah, and like that's the other main one, and I don't have that either. So I
Mhm.
know that I don't have it as bad as other people that are experiencing it do.
Mhm.
And what I'm exploring lately that's been really helpful is actually Chinese medicine, a specific way of eating. That's really helpful in that. I've kind of been slacking, and I've been feeling the difference when I don't stick to it.
Yeah.
Um, which is kind of against a lot of things that I've learned, which is eating a lot of grains. Like half of my plate needs to be grains.
Mhm.
Um, and when I say grains, I mean things like buckwheat and millet, and like these things that I didn't really deal with or eat beforehand, at least not like this. And I have to eat seaweed with every meal. Yeah, it's full of iodine, which is necessary for the thyroid, and that's definitely been helpful. But I think that's just, like I said, it's helpful. It's not the actual root cause. I definitely think that it's more emotional than anything else, and I'm not really sure. Like I'm not hiding it. I'm happy to talk about things that I'm going through. I just
Yeah.
I haven't figured it out to tell you exactly what it is yet. And so a big thing that I've been doing lately is reaching out to people around me that are in some sort of healing work, spiritual work, trauma healing work, Reiki, like all of the different things that I can reach out to.
Yeah.
That's a big one that I've been doing to try to uncover what the layers are and figure it out.
Mm. Calling upon all the sisters, all the brothers. No, I love it. I support you, and how frustrating it is to like to have something going on, but also like how you hold yourself and how loving you are with yourself. I know it's been a freaking journey probably to even get to that point,
Oh
but
yeah.
like how watching you when we were, because everyone, we went to the same retreat, Manayi, by our beloved sister and brother, Paulina and Zen, in Crete, Greece. And we finally got to meet there, which was so exciting because our first podcast, we hadn't met yet. And then it all happened very quickly and fastly, exactly how it was supposed to. And I mean, just watching you brought your own food, you had everything planned out. Of course, you ate what we were all eating because we had such
It
scrumptious
was
food.
it was also aligned with the things I was supposed to be eating, which I was so surprised by. Like, who cooks buckwheat at a retreat?
Exactly. And yeah, just being able to see you, like, you stay committed. Like you weren't going outside the lines, and I think that's something you have strongly within you. It's like you're a disciplined person, and yeah, that's a respectful trait that I am always learning more of.
Yeah, me too. It's not I'm not always disciplined, and I'm trying to be better at it for sure.
Mhm.
And that's why I think having the support system, so reaching out to other people has been really helpful for me in this, because we can't always do it alone, even though we're great. We can't always do it alone.
Yeah, and maybe that's like a really big part of it, just really leaning into the support. And as someone who has a Pisces sun and that Saturn conjunction, how are you feeling in this Pisces season? Like, do you feel like a cycle is going to end or begin soon, or what's your take?
I feel like I'm on the end. I'm at the end of this
Mhm.
cycle that I've been in for a long time, which, like, when I started gaining weight, I was like still working out, still eating healthy, and then at some point in the middle, I was just like, whatever, this is it, this is me now, I'm fat, let's leave it as it is. And I gave up for like a good few months. I was just like, this sucks, like it doesn't matter what
Mhm.
I'm doing, nothing, like it just doesn't matter. That's what it felt like. And so I kind of did get into this loop of a bit of self-pity, but because I am who I am, I knew that I knew it wasn't forever.
Mhm.
And I do feel like I'm on the end of it. Like I do feel like it's coming to an end, and my birthday is coming up in about 2 weeks. And that feels like it's really the, like, closing the chapter, like the concrete day of like, that's it, no more of that. Even though in the last month or so it's been better, more than a month, couple months. I've been treating myself really nicely. So that's really important. But for a little while there, I did get into a loop of self-pity, which I just let myself for a little, because I think that's what I needed.
Absolutely. And to not do that is almost denying yourself of meeting that part of yourself, or even letting it have a voice, having a space at the table. And sometimes you just gotta let the river flow, if I can speak today. And I mean, you're gonna come into your Saturn return this year or next year, 2024.
Yep, 3 times. So that's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
But at
so
least we know it's gonna happen, right?
exactly. So what do you think might be your experience or like a foretelling of the future? What do you feel?
Well, I like to think positively about this, because the Saturn return doesn't necessarily have to be negative. It's just in my phrasing of it, when I tell people about it, it's either you've learned the lessons you need to learn until now and you're about to capitalize on all of that, or
Mm.
life is going to slap you upside the head and say, no, 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 you still have more things you need to learn from this exact thing in a different way, maybe. Um, so I don't think it's going to be easy, but I have a good feeling about it. Like, I have a feeling that it's like ending the difficulty, because I am Saturn. I have Saturn on my sun. I'm a Capricorn rising. Like, Saturn is me. We're buddies, kind of, when I want to be.
Besties. Yes.
When we want to be, we are. When we're not, we're not. But I do think it's going to be an overall positive experience. I mean, I'm turning 28 this March, and in my head, I'm like, even though I'm very focused on trying to remain present, a big part of me is like, I can't wait to be in my 30s. Like, that's a decade. That's a decade to, like, celebrate, and like, I'm no longer the person I was in my 20s. I was terrible in my early 20s. I was not a person you want to hang out with. Well, maybe depending on where you were at that age, but
I would love for
but
you to explain that deeper. Like, tell us your story from where you went, where you were, to how you got to where you are now. Because I know you're diving into some deep studies, and I want to, yeah, go into that afterwards.
yeah. So in 2014, I moved to Israel. I've been here for 8 years now. Yeah, it's been 8 years.
Mhm.
And yeah, in my early 20s, I was your quintessential party girl. Like, that's just who I was. I was drinking to blackout points every weekend and thought it was cool. Like, I think about that now and I'm like, Oh man, I love you so much for going through that for me to not ever have to go through that again. But that lasted a long time. Like I was at that point for a long time. I traveled a lot, and I traveled in 2018 for about, I'm skipping forward. Quintessential party girl was that. And then I traveled in 2018 for about 6 months in South America, and met a whole new group of friends, Israeli friends that I came back here with and continued my partying streak with until about 2 years ago. Until about 2 years ago, when I got arrested for possession of drugs and was in jail for a week. And that was the moment when I was sitting in a cell, which is crazy. I think about that now. I was me. I was there. And I've always been very connected and very spiritual and all of that. And when I was sitting in the cell, that was the moment when I told myself, if you don't think about the things you're grateful for right now in this moment, this is going to be the rest of your life. And I was very hard on myself in a good way, like very disciplined about it. Like you need to sit down now and make a gratitude list. Not that I had anywhere to write it, but I was sitting there thinking, and this was after I'm bawling my eyes out for 3 days, sitting there like, what am I doing in this place? What? I think I was the first vegan they've ever encountered. Like I was just like out of place in this place. But I managed to think of a few things I was grateful for, among them like being literate because there were books there and I could read. And I was just like, okay, wow, cool. That's cool. I can read. Like that's a cool thing to have. And I realized that the universe told me to sit down and think about what I'd been doing, and that I got to stop. And so I did. And I think it's just been a very, like, since I was doing drugs and drinking alcohol for a very long time, I think I just kind of ignored things that I needed to deal with. So it makes sense to me that 2 years later, I would be dealing with health issues. I mean, the health issues arose almost just over a year from the moment that I was arrested. So it's just like everything's like unraveling slowly. And so I needed to sit down, think about what I'd done. I did. And it's been a journey since then, becoming more myself, more back to who I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you, I think I asked you last podcast, when did you start learning astrology?
Probably about 3 years ago. So while I was still partying and doing drugs and all of that, I started with it. And so I think that's why I actually ended up getting arrested, because like half of me was in this, you're moving in your purpose, and half of me was like, nope, you're staying back here where and are familiar with and feel comfortable with. And so yeah, I really deepened my studies after this. But that's when I started, about a year before.
Will you go into a little bit deeper explanation of like how you felt that dichotomy and like your astrology, so people understand that? Just because I love when people are able to see, especially astrologers, who are like, yeah, that is very in my lane. Like I can choose the high or low road and I know exactly which part I'm leaning towards.
Yeah, so I'll definitely talk a little bit of astrology. I am a Pisces sun. And whoever doesn't know, Pisces is the dreamer, the mystic, the blah, blah, blah. It's also the addict. Like if you know someone that has Pisces placements, more than other things, a Pisces sun or a Pisces moon, they probably have some addictive tendencies. And I would even say a Pisces Venus too. They probably have some addictive tendencies. So the high road of Pisces is all what I'm embodying now and moving into, the mysticism, the spirituality, the depth, the dreams, intuition, the real connectedness, the like feeling what's happening before it's happening, this being a psychic, like all of these things that are slowly coming back to me. But the low road is the addiction and the self-sabotage and just the doing things that you shouldn't, but you're going to anyway because it's what you know. I was definitely embodying that for a long time while still trying, like half of me moving into the higher road. So that was an interesting time where I was just like, but this is me, but this is also me, but this is me too. And it was just like a kind of just a loop going in circles. And I also, for those who understand astrology speak, I also have Jupiter square Saturn in my chart. So that is like a quintessential, has issues with overindulgence. Yeah, Saturn being our boundaries and Jupiter being the abundance. It's like you don't have any boundaries when it comes to indulging in things. So I definitely have embodied all of those things, and I'm still uncovering and moving into my higher self.
Absolutely. Do you feel like when you follow your emotional body, then you're able to like see the direct line of like, oh yeah, this is the way? Is that something you feel?
Um, for the most part, I think so. For the most part, I think sometimes if I'm in a situation that isn't serving me or that I'm not treating myself in the way that I need to, then sometimes my emotions can be a little bit clouded. Uh, but when I'm sticking to my practices, when I'm meditating every day, when I'm doing the things that I know make me feel good, when I'm moving, when I'm eating right, when I'm doing all of these things, my emotions are 100% my GPS, 100% my GPS system. If something feels good, I should be there. And I think that's a thing for everyone. And if it doesn't feel good, you shouldn't be there. I shouldn't be there.
It's funny that you say that. I was talking to someone yesterday who has their sun is on the cusp. They're like a Pisces Aries. And so she was saying her whole life, like yesterday's energy was basically her energy. And she said, yeah, I finally stopped trying to force things. I don't like see the next step. I now just whatever appears to me and it's feels good and it feels like it's like I'm attracted to it. I just say yes. So she was like, I left a marriage, I left this job, I left this, and I did this instead, and then that, and now she has like this really amazing fashion opportunity and a different like the bet like her dream partner whatever, and I'm like, wow, that's a great reminder because just chasing that loop of like I need to do this in my steps and my plans and like I think I know what's best, but then you're just feeling crummy and gross and like you're ripping at the seams. At least that's how I feel. I always speak from personal experience, and so like tailoring it back and just letting it come in the moment of like, oh yeah, clarity, oh yeah, clarity, oh fuck yes, I'm gonna do this.
Oh, I totally agree with that because as I start moving into myself and listening to my emotions, all of a sudden things are like really falling into place for me. And I feel that, like, of course, I'm still going through my health things, but it feels like it's, like I said, I feel like I'm on the end of it. Like it's coming to a close, it feels like. And so many other things are happening that are so positive right now that I'm just like, okay, I'll listen more, I'll pray more, I'll meditate more. Wait, it's actually working. These are real things. Like it's
Mhm.
it's it's happening, and it's happening, as cliche as it sounds, like the universe does know best, and like the things that I've been asking for are appearing in different forms, but they're exactly what I've been asking for.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm listening. I'm gonna keep listening.
And it's the proof of knowing, like, oh, you did know better. Oh, I could never have imagined this opportunity or this outcome. Thank you so much. Because it just brings you to the next best thing. And so I want to talk a little bit about so I'll have you explain it, but you're diving into the Egyptian teachings and the mysteries. And for anyone out there, this is such a part of myself that I've been diving into more since knowing you, knowing Paulina, getting to go to the retreat and witnessing like the psychic abilities, witnessing and surrendering to the past, the memories that come up, the remembrance, and all these different pieces that kind of surface that we're like, no, this isn't true. This isn't what is this? And we like,
My
it's kind of like,
imagination.
yes, it's my imagination. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, and there's like 7 holes, and you're like trying to pop them all down, but you can't get them all. So you're like, huh, huh. So I'd love for you to just dive into all of that.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah. Where do we start?
Where do we start? I think on a very, it is really tough to put it into words. So the Egyptian path is definitely it's the major part of what I'm diving into.
Mhm.
But I've also been overall just diving into what ancient mysteries did exist.
Mm.
So it's not just Egyptian mysteries that are currently my path. And when people ask me, and I've had this question a little bit lately of how to dive into their spirituality or
Yeah.
how to start becoming a spiritual person or whatever that is. I always encourage people to dive into their own personal ancestral lineage and as far back as you can go to dive into that. So whatever that means for some people Christianity is the most
Mm.
recent or the oldest lineage that they can find in their family, and that's fine. Christianity has so much mysticism in it if you really go to the core of it. Some people it's Islam, which is some people it's religious, is my point. For me it's a Jewish lineage, so I've been very surface level looking into what the Kabbalah means, and I don't have enough to talk about with that, so I won't
Yeah.
won't go into that. But for some people it's African cultures, it's tribal cultures. That's where you have to start, as far back as you can go. And so for me, the first time I went to Egypt, I told a friend of mine, I had some time off of work. It was holidays. I told my friend, listen, I need to go see the pyramids. Like I need to go see the pyramids.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that was because I was in this crusade of um trying to heal my ancestral trauma. And the oldest lineage that I know within Jewish lineage is the ancient Israelites being slaves in Egypt.
Mm.
And so that was the first reason that I went to Egypt. Um, that is no longer my belief. I don't think that that's the case, but that's a different story, not for like a religious debate or anything like that. There's just no evidence of it. And it just doesn't, if we compare things in the Jewish religion to the ancient Egyptian religion, there's so many parallels that I can't even I can't fathom that we weren't a part of the society there. It doesn't make sense to me that they were ruled over, the ancient Israelites.
Mm.
Like the lunar calendar that the Jews still use today is the exact same calendar that the ancient Egyptians used. The ancient Egyptian tree of life is the exact same thing as the Kabbalistic, the Jewish mysticism branch tree of life. Like they're all the same. So then I was like, oh wait, I need to dive into the Egyptian mysticism a little bit more because that feels very real and very right.
Mhm.
And so that's where that started, to explain that little spiel.
Mhm.
Um, and the more I dive into it, the more it makes sense to me. The ancient Egyptian pantheon of gods is ancient Egyptians were not actually polytheistic. They did not believe in multiple gods. They did believe that the Neteru, the Neters, the ancient Egyptian gods, were aspects of nature
Mhm.
that are all a part of the one. And they were personified to represent different pieces of nature and different pieces of life itself.
Mhm.
So the more I dive into it, the more it makes sense. It's not that they weren't deities, they were,
Mhm.
um, but they were all part of the one. So it just makes a lot of sense the more I dive into it. And yeah, I don't know how deep you want me to go on it because there's a lot I can talk about when it comes to ancient Egyptian mysteries.
Yeah. Oh, we can go deep. I want you to blow some minds. And when you said like the Neteru and how they're just these pieces, I think of like, but they're all this one whole. I just think of like, hey, we're all this one essence. Let's bring ourselves into fractals to make more of an emphasis or impact and like maybe even show up for people in specific ways to show them like, hey, maybe you need to learn a little bit more about this aspect of the self so that you can be this more uh connected one whole being. But yeah,
Right.
that just came up for me. That's really cool to think about.
Yeah, it is. And neteru, the word neter is where we get our current word for nature. So it is a progression of how that evolved into what we say even today. But there's a lot to talk about there. Someone that I've been connecting with very much is Hathor. So she is the goddess of fertility and music and love and all the fun things. She's a very positive goddess, and when she gets drunk, she turns into Sekhmet, which is the lioness goddess, the lion-headed goddess, who destroys, who's the goddess of war. So it's two sides of the same coin. And that's another thing of, it's all connected. It's nothing separate. But when you go to the temple of Hathor, Dendera temple, which is also the astrological temple in Egypt, you see, and this is so funny, I pointed it out to my Egyptian friend that I went with this time, you see people sitting outside playing music. Like that doesn't happen at other temples. So you can't tell me the energetics don't affect what's happening there now. But there's a lot to dive into with that.
I love that connection, and I love that that's how easy it can be to witness the energetic of a certain essence or of these certain deities, so to say. It's like, yeah, that just makes sense for that to happen. But then why isn't it happening everywhere else? Let's just not make it harder.
No other temple are they playing music, and at this one they do, and they don't even know what they're being influenced by, but it's happening. You don't need to know about it for it to happen. Yeah, but I've just been really uncovering, or starting to uncover, I don't say uncovering, what ancient mysteries really mean. So I've been looking into ancient Sumerian as well, and uncovering what our roots are, because when I look into it, there's just so much information that it feels very difficult to process sometimes. But I am currently in Egyptian focused mystery school with a beloved teacher of mine, Dee. So that's a path that I'm starting now. Yeah.
That's so amazing. How do you balance the ability to go into the history, into the realness in this truth that's unfolding, and then bringing it back into your present life? What does that look like for you?
I think the main thing that I take from the studies, well, not the main thing, there's so many main things, but one of the biggest things that I take from the studies, and this isn't in not in a depressing way, actually in an uplifting way, that none of this matters, in the most happy way that you can think of that. Not that nothing matters, so just screw it all. And I'm more of like, bad things happen, but it doesn't matter. Or like, you probably know that ancient Chinese text about the farmer who loses his horses, and
Oh, I don't think I do.
I think I'm gonna read it to you then.
Please.
It's a good story for those who don't know it, especially.
Yes, I'm stoked on this.
Wait, I have it here somewhere. Okay, so a few minutes. It's a good story to listen to. My voice is all right, so. All right. Once upon a time, on a fine fall morning, an old farmer went out to tend his animals and crops. At first light, the farmer was dismayed to see his fence had been crushed by a falling tree during the night. All three of the farmer's prized horses had disappeared. The other villagers moaned in sympathy. "Whatever will you do?" they asked the farmer. "This is terrible," they all cried, shaking their heads sadly, and right before harvest time, too. "Your harvest will rot in the field. What will your family eat this winter? How will you get your crop in without horses?" one of the villagers asked the old farmer. "We'll see," was the farmer's only reply as he returned to his chores. Later on that morning, the farmer heard the sound of hooves and, looking up, saw his 3 horses had returned. What was more, the 3 horses had 2 wild horses running with them. Soon, the villagers were heard to express their delight at the farmer's good fortune. "What a wonderful thing to have happen," the other villagers cried. "What a wealthy man you will be with this new stock of animals." "We'll see," was all the old farmer would reply. After lunch that day, the farmer's son was trying to break one of the wild horses to the saddle. Suddenly, the wild horse threw the son to the ground. Running to his injured son, the farmer found his son's leg badly broken. The neighbors were soon around to give their opinions. What a terrible calamity, the villagers said. What a disaster. Now you really won't be able to get your crop in without a strong son to help you. He will take months to heal. Whatever will you do now? The other villagers asked the farmer in despair. The farmer would only shrug and say, "We'll see." Later that afternoon, military officials rode into the tiny village with a great clattering of weapons and jostling of horses. Looking grim and serious, the soldiers announced an official conscription. Every young and able man was to be drafted into service that very day. The farmer's son, having just been injured, was left behind, even as other sons and husbands were taken. No one in the village could believe the old farmer's good fortune, and not everyone was entirely happy about it. Surely the most tremendous good fortune has smiled upon you today, the villagers grumbled. How can anyone be so lucky? But the old farmer would only reply, "We'll see."
Mm. I love that. No matter the opinions or the escalade of what's coming from the external, it's just, we'll see what happens.
We'll see. That's one of my biggest teachings in like that I've been taught in all of the different mysteries, because the more I dive into uncovering different types of mysteries, the more I also realize they're all teaching the same thing. That it's all, everything's the same, all the teachings are the same. The basis is love. The basis is caring for yourself, caring for the other,
Yeah.
living as harmoniously as you can with the earth, and not really taking any of these matters as personal. So it's just a we'll see kind of thing.
Mhm. If you had any, because I know you've kind of given pointers as to like, hey, if you're interested in this, like you could start by going into your own ancestry. And then if you want to dive deeper, like figure out how far back that goes and then start there.
Yeah.
If you had any encouragement for ways to connect more with nature, on that simple level, if like someone can't wrap their head around diving into ancient mysteries, which if you're listening to this, you probably have a little bit of interest because I'm a little out there. Not that any of this is out there, it's just real truth.
Very much in here.
Yeah, it's very much in here. It's the internal, which is like a great time to talk about all the internalness because it is Pisces season, our last little winter month before we shoot out into Aries season. Yeah, what would be some of your suggestions to connect more with nature, or if you do feel called to a certain aspect of nature?
Hmm. So the easiest thing to do, I think, well, there's a few really easy ways to start connecting with nature. And one of them would be, if you can, to go outside and feel the sun on your face in the morning and just welcome the sun for a new day and thank the sun, who is also Ra. And if if it's really cold outside or if it's very cloudy, you can do it from inside as long as you're, looking out to it and really welcoming it into the new day.
Mhm.
Another easy way that's very, I feel like it's well known nowadays, is to just walk barefoot outside if you can.
Yeah.
Again, if it's really cold, then maybe just feeling with your hands, or bringing no, I would say walking outside barefoot would be the best idea,
Yeah.
uh, for that specifically. And I know a lot of places are cold now because it is about to be March, so it's
Mhm.
not so warm outside. But as if you can, also to dive into some lake or river or something like that, if you don't have that around you, then even just showering or taking a bath, and recognizing that the water, and giving it its acknowledgement, the water that's flowing through your shower and your bath has probably been everywhere in the world at one time. It's probably been in the ocean, it's probably been in the river, it's probably been in the lake, and it's not new. It's not new water, even though it's flowing out of your shower. So that's, I think those are easy ways to start to connect to nature, rather than having to go out and do a big ceremony and hug a tree, even though that feels very good too.
Yes. What part of nature do you resonate most with?
I'm tied between saying water and the sun, because I know the sun isn't, I mean, yeah, it is nature. So the sun, like if I need to choose one thing, it's definitely the sun. Like, as whenever I can get sun, I will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a deeper, like anytime I go out and intentionally appreciate, have gratitude, feel, acknowledge, like I look through the trees and I don't just see the tree, but I see through every little twig and all the little shapes that they're make, like all those little pieces and places. I'm like, wow, this is insane. Like so many different analogies happening all over around us. And I think getting caught up in our brains and the ego can be such a way to disconnect. But if we could just stop and see, oh wow, like my brain really does work like a tree, like all of my thoughts, they just spew and they create and they have these little bulbs. And if I choose to look at one bulb, I might be able to create something or like harvest an apple from it, whatever
Mm.
the case, going on my little rant. But I think that's a really important message to share. It's like, just go out once a day, by God, once a day, and just welcome it into your life and just see how that changes how you feel every day.
Yeah. It takes a minute, not even more than that, just to say thank you to the earth for holding us, especially now throughout these times when, as a human race, and of course, we like to say, no, but it's not me. Like, we are assholes to the earth. Like, we are not cool. We're not cool with Mother Earth right now. And she's still supporting us. And just saying that is just so important. Like, the earth, and of course we have natural disasters and earthquakes and fires and all of these things that happen. It's oh, let me bring it back to us as humans. When our body is telling us something,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's not, the earth is not against us. She's telling us she's hurting.
Yes.
And so, yeah,
She needs all,
especially now.
yes, especially now. She needs all the love she can get. And every little bit and piece and practice matters. What are some practices that you try to do or have discipline around that help the earth?
The biggest one that I have discipline around, which I hope is not too taboo for your listeners,
Mhm.
um, is returning my blood to the earth. So every month when I bleed, I make an offering back to the earth. And that is a very important part of my practice. It's the blood of life. It's not waste. And it is something that, if you've ever watered any of your plants with your blood, anyone that's listening, they will grow like you have no idea. And if you don't feel comfortable taking your blood outside of your house and watering plants, then water the plants inside your house. That's fine too. It is still making an offering back to earth. So that
Yes.
is the biggest thing that I do. But the main thing is to be, other than that, if you don't have any solid practice, is reciprocity. If you have crystals that you've had for a long time, if you have anything that's natural that you've been holding on to for a long time, and that you don't really get use out of, it's just sort of collecting dust and it's become a decorative object,
Mhm.
bring it back to the earth.
Yeah. Oh,
Dig a hole somewhere and put it in the hole as an offering back to the earth.
yes. That's a big one that I am just bringing more awareness to it. Like the little filing cabinet in my mind, it's like in the front right now. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of rocks that I've gathered from all my little travels. I'm just like a little geo hound, and it's just time. Like I'm not doing anything with them. Taking them from those places can be a form of disrespect. Like for me, that's my opinion right now. I'm like, I do need to just bring those back and let them go. And it's okay because it's like it's recycling. It's a sustainable practice that will the energy will flow back. It's like
Yeah,
like composting.
yeah. And when you do feel the need to take something from a place, I don't think it's always disrespect, as long as you're asking for permission,
Yes.
and if you can, making an offering in return for
Mhm.
that, even if your offering is not physical. So even if you can just offer a prayer or a song, or if you can arrange the leaves or the flowers that have fallen in a pretty way as like an altar for the earth, because the earth is the altar, you know?
Yeah.
So even if you do feel called to take something from somewhere, then just offering your prayer in return, I think is a good way to do that, because I agree with you, it can be disrespectful many times to take things from the earth, but sometimes she wants us to have it. It's
Yeah.
just important to sort of sit for a few minutes and see if that feels right.
Yes. Yes. Good clarification. And to quickly go back to offering our menstrual blood, how rich in nutrient it is. Like we're shedding it anyways. If we can respect it and oh my, I mean, this can just go very deep because first of all, we're gonna go a little deep real fast.
What?
First of all, there's such an issue with birth control and taming the menstrual cycle, taming the fertility process in itself. And then what was it? Like at the same time, I'll come back to me, but at the same time birth control came about, something else came about, and it just was this contradicting deal. It just didn't add up. Anyhow, so that being this force message, which, you know, it gave women the ability to have sex whenever they wanted, which was very liberating at that time because they didn't have that repercussion, but they also didn't have the right knowledge like, oh, I can get pregnant every day of the month. That's false. You have a window of 5 to 6 days. That's your ovulation window. And this thus continues to lead us into one, get over that you are a beloved creature and woman that has a cycle. You move with nature. I mean, how does this?
There's nothing more powerful than that. Like once you start realizing it, you're like, oh wait, so I'm an actual superhero on earth. Like there's so much you can do with it. And if we're just talking about it scientifically, which I will not, only a
Yeah.
little bit maybe, the
Yeah.
blood is full of stem cells. Like, do you know how much people are fiending for these things? Like you can do so much with it. And there's an ancient a Hopi prophecy of I think you're familiar with it, with when the women return their blood to the earth, the men will return from war and there will be peace on earth.
Mm,
So this is not new. This is ancient. In many ancient tribal cultures, the woman who's menstruating is revered as this is her time. This is the time when the veil has dropped as well. So you can really connect to your spirit self and your spirit guides and your everything that's sort of beyond that the realm that we see in the physical. That is so much stronger during that time. And
mhm.
so she was a force to be reckoned with in these traditional cultures, and somehow it just got twisted.
In a horrible way. Yes. And so if we could emphasize like, hey, try it out once and then try it out again and then a third time because it's not going to feel comfortable the first time when it's a new practice and you're rewiring yourself and you're going, "Oh, this is natural. Oh, I get to do this. I get to make this important in my life." And I'll admit, the first time I ever had that opportunity where I felt like safe or comfortable, besides when I'm camping and I'd be on my period and I'd be like, oh, I'm bleeding. I feel bad. I used to think when I was hiking, adventuring on my road trips, bleeding, I would feel bad. And that is really sad to think. And so now, like having my first experience with that in Crete, and everyone was invited if you were bleeding to return it, and multiple, like those of us who were did. It was powerful. And I felt very connected. I felt like I was a part of this whole system. It really brought me into a bigger picture, but on the ground level.
Very, very primal. It's very
Yeah.
like this is it just, and it also isn't like strange. It feels very natural to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, wow. So if you're like, "Ooh, that's a lot," just reel it in. You take 90 seconds, your emotions will pass, and then you'll be able to settle. So just I really try it out. I want to share, like I had the opportunity of even offering a sister's blood back who had to leave early on our last day. And the like in my head, it made perfect sense. So the first day, I was the first one who arrived because I had to show up a day. I left a day earlier than everyone so I could get there on time because I had the craziest flights in the world. And so I was able to hang out with Zin and Paulina early on, get there, whatever. And then I went to the river to go swim. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go swim. I'm going to go cleanse myself and really get into this mode of I am here. And I'm not going to be on my phone and I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z that I normally do. And it felt amazing. And then on the last day, I was like, all right, I need to go back in the river, cleanse, have that be like my closing door to this. But the river, because we had just gotten all this crazy rain, amazing thunderstorm to really like bang out the end of this trip. It was wild, like, cracks of thunder. Next day I go back and I wanted to go swim, but I was like, oh, it's cold. I don't really know right now, but I'll go like return this blood and like this moth body that we found. And I had shared that I'm not a big fan of moths and I don't know why. They're just kind of freaky to me. And so there's some symbolism in that. And I go down there and this river is just roaring. If I went in there, I would have not come out pretty. So I'm happy I didn't go in it, but I was able to go back there and still end and close that door and have a moment. I mean, I cried, I shed, I was able to really appreciate and process everything that happened in that, I mean, that 10-day period that, or 14-day period of just my entire travel, or 10-day at that point. I was like, this is magnificent. And I got to offer that back, say a prayer, sing a song. And it was, I just felt like a new person. And it really like gave me a punch, like a very gentle punch, like, hey, this is reality. Everything that's the texting and taking the photos and trying to like, I don't know, have opinions about things that don't actually matter in your life. It's all just extra weight. It's not a comfy weighted blanket. It's more like concrete or like an avalanche kind of snow pressing down on your body and you're like, I can't breathe and this is really stiff and hard to move through. So I just want to share that. That was such a powerful practice and the connection I felt with that sister in particular and how close. I mean, we grew up in the Midwest together, yada yada. So I was like, oh yeah, I would be the one to like to do this. And so yeah, just very powerful for myself and to witness our own powerful stories. I think that's a huge game player.
Yeah. And if anyone is listening all the way to here, then the message is take your blood and put it in nature. Like that's the message. Take your blood.
Yeah.
If it freaks you out in the beginning, that's fine. I promise you'll get over it. Isabelle promises you'll get over it.
Yep. Yes.
and and just put it in nature. And if you don't have somewhere in nature, water your plants with it. And
Yes.
if you don't know how to collect your blood, then start with a cup, a menstrual cup. Even though at this point I don't use that. I use like these reusable cotton pads that I soak in water afterwards.
Oh,
But unless I have to do like a, if I'm really doing like a ceremony, then I want my blood pure. But other than that, it's not as difficult as you think. And it
no.
connects you with yourself. It connects you with your womb, which is the center of creativity. It's the center of everything is created in a womb. That's where things are created, so it's everything.
Mm. Oh, the womb. Yep, we could go down another rabbit hole there because that's such a potent place for women to heal as well. I mean, so many times over do I hear story my own self having that story of just if you have chronic issues going on, or maybe you're dry down there, maybe you're overly this or that, like there is something trying to be conveyed. Dive in, go deep.
Connect with your cycle, touch your blood.
Yes. And I want to ask you as we wrap up, like when it comes to psychicness and psychic abilities, what are your words or what's your experience?
Okay, my experience has been very heightened lately, which is really cool. It's really cool because I've been wanting it for a long time. So for what when it's happening, I'm like, am I making it up? Is this really happening? Like being psychic is not really necessarily seeing into the future. It's more being able to connect with the realm that's not here physically. So whether that be with your spirit guides, or whether that be with having flashes of your past lives, or it can manifest in many different ways. And I think to strengthen it, it's important to commit to yourself and whatever that means for you. But in my personal experience, it has a lot to do with committing to your mental strength. So physically, I think we all, at some point when you're clearing your mental, I think we all end up in a movement practice, because it's something that goes hand in hand. And it may be easier for some people, most people in my experience, to start with the physical. So if you're not working out, if you're not moving, like that's easier than dealing with trauma in your brain. But they go hand in hand. So once you're doing one, you're doing the other. Like it's not separate from one another. But the more you're clearing out your mental, the more you're moving in your heart space. So that means moving in a place of love. And I'll explain what's a really easy practice to do with that as well. The more you'll start having these flashes. And so also being in a place of prayer as well. And when I say prayer, it doesn't necessarily mean, because I know that could be a trigger word for many people that grew up religious and aren't really connected with it. And I'm not either. And I didn't really grow up religious, but prayer for me always, in my head, it was always like, I imagined rabbis. And I know some people will imagine like a preacher, or, mass or church or whatever, but that's not what it means. It's just offering your appreciation, not always asking for something, but speaking to the entities that are, I keep wanting to say the word in Hebrew, like me'ever. They're like across. They're not here physically. It's offering your words to them, speaking with them, even if you can't hear an answer back, and moving in that place of connecting with the spirit. So to easily, I think, connect with your heart space and a place of love, there's two practices that I do very, very often. One is a short meditation that we did in Greece, where you can breathe into your heart space. And when you're breathing in, you breathe in love. And when you breathe out love as well. So you're always just like in love, out love. The inwards is love, the outwards is love. And you can sort of imagine this bubble growing around you. And if you find it hard to imagine a light or an energy in your heart space, when you're breathing in the love and out the love, you're breathing from your heart. You feel the breath go in through your heart and out through your heart. If you find it hard to imagine those, you can literally just imagine the word love. It'll start to take effect as you keep practicing it. And then you create this bubble around you that's a bubble of love. And another short practice that I love to do when I'm feeling unaligned, because it forces me back to being in the heart space, is inside. You don't have to have people thinking you're crazy. If you don't want to, you can if you want, but is to tell everyone you see in the street, I love you. You go to the cashier at the store, I love you. It's from your heart, it's inside, it's in your head, it's in your heart. You don't necessarily need to say it out loud. And if you have a hard time practicing this, just walking by people on the street and like being in this floaty place of like, I love you, I love you, I love you. If you find that hard, then start practicing on trees and birds and animals, and you'll start feeling a big, big, big difference. And as you're continuing to move in your heart space, these visions, these flashes, these connections, they happen on their own. They just happen on their own. It's not something that I have yet perfected some sort of practice to get there, but have definitely had a lot of clarity lately with visions of the past and visions of my guides.
I love tapping into our psychic abilities because we all have them. And the practice of love, I mean, both of them. I loved when you guided us through that in Greece, because you just feel warm and you feel magnetic and radiant. And I just love knowing like we did that, and then we were going to the temple or the building to go sing all together, and then it was locked, and then Paulina asked for the key, and then it was asked and it was given, and she ran back and we all got to do it, and it was amazing, 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 and it was such a heartfelt moment. And to hear, like, it's as simple as walking down the street or looking out your window and just saying I love you, I love you. And it's funny because I do that sometimes whenever I'm feeling, yeah, like you said, just a little out of place. I'll just open myself up, drop it all, let it all go, and just go, I love you. Even if I'm upset with someone or what they had to say or whatever the case, because I'm not perfect and I'm definitely still working through that part of myself. I'm like, you know what? Love you, appreciate you. This is all in perfect remedy and guidance and rhythm, and
Mm.
it is what it is.
Yeah, so you'll actually find it easier to do it with people that you don't know, because we have a lot of animosity sometimes to those who are close to us. So starting to practice, like I said, if it's difficult on people first, then to dogs, or to the trees, to the birds, like I love you. And not, it's really important, not I'm sending you love. I love you. Like that there's a difference between those two. So it's just important that I love you. And as you walk by, you go check out at the supermarket, you tell the person who's scanning your items, I love you. Like it feels really good. You get this stupid smile on your face that's really like giddy and like, life is so much fun.
Yes, you bring it back into just being a kid again. Because it
Yeah.
gets to be playful and it gets to be, I mean, you impact their day. Who knows the last time they heard that from anyone? And maybe they're in the dark space and you're that gift. I mean, anytime, oh, like anytime you feel that pull, I think that's even a psychic entrance or like invitation. If you feel called to tell someone something and it doesn't make sense to you and you're a little nervous about it, for example, the other night we went out to dinner and our server had the cutest little outfit on and it was color coordinated. It was so poppy and different. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so cute right now. Earrings all the way to her shoes. I really need to tell her this. And I felt nervous to say it. I'm like, it's just a compliment, Isabel. It's just a compliment. And so this is just a small practice we can all incorporate. And so before we left, I was like, hey, I have to let you know, you are on fire with your outfit. You look amazing. I love it. She's like, oh my God, really? I was so nervous when I came to work because this is my first time wearing this outfit. And I really felt insecure when I got here. I was like, no, you're rocking it. Like, keep shining. And I was like, oh my God, right there's confirmation.
So important.
You can always be that person.
Oh yeah.
And lastly, I would love to just ask you about this experience. So, very odd, and I have no idea what to make of it. So you're the person to talk to about it. The day, so 2 Thanksgivings ago, our dog gave birth, and the prior or earlier on that day, we were traveling in our camper in Washington, rainy day, and we go to this little park. Well, there's an entrance to the ocean, to the beach. And there wasn't much beach, it was just very sandy and a lot of shells. Well, I ended up finding a crab arm and it was like broken right at the arm. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I took a photo of it. And at that point, I didn't think anything of it, but I was like, this is beautiful. And I felt really connected to it. I was like, I just want to hold it for a little while and then I'll put it back. And I was just admiring it, turning it around. And then we leave. That night, dog gives birth. We move on this journey of having 7 puppies in a camper. And then the tragic night of one of our puppies breaking his arm happens. And move
Oh, wow.
forward, everything happened, yada yada. All of these health issues came up for me, so forth and so on. And then yesterday, I am making I just felt called to share like a few words on a reel. And I was like, I had nothing particular I wanted to say, just sharing a message. And like I wrote out a caption, but in the words, like on the voiceover, whatever, I said something. And a photo that I found, like I'm scrolling just random photos I'm looking for. I'm like, I don't care what it is. Boom. I click on that photo. And it all kind of happened in my mind, like, whoa, crab, day of Zena's birth. Ike breaking his arm. Whoa. And I just felt like there was something deeper to it. Like I was getting a message from that moment before it all happened. And I'm not sure if, like I said, like I could be overthinking it, but like why would I randomly select that and then think of that for the energy that I was in, what I had just read and what I just said. And it's like, this is way too synchronistic for this not to like be maybe a light for me to realize maybe there's a way that nature is always communicating if we're open and able to see in the moments, or maybe even to just let us know, like, hey, this is like, it does communicate, and like that's all the message has to be. And I know a lot of this can be us having our own symbolism for it and knowing our own words for it and trusting what's coming up for us, but I'd just love to hear your opinion on all of that.
Did you only realize the connection between the broken crab arm and the puppy's broken arm right now, like when you opened up the picture, or did you realize it when it happened?
When I opened up the picture yesterday. Yeah.
So I think for me, what that means is that you're connecting more with yourself, and that you're realizing that there's a lot more to everything. As the type of people that we are, we do have a tendency to see a sign in everything, and not everything is a sign,
Yeah.
but that feels like it is a sign to me. Like that feels like it is a sign. And I think you making that connection now is really just showing you that you're way more connected than you were then, and to just
Mm,
be open to receiving whatever signs are coming through, even if you don't fully understand what they are. So
yeah.
even if you don't understand what they are, if it feels like something's trying to tell you something, maybe write it down.
Yeah.
Maybe that could help. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that definitely feels like you having that like zoop, that like connection of this happened, then this happened. Oh wait, that feels like it's a very clear sign for me. I don't know. I don't know if I would have made a connection at the time that it would be the dog, or that it would be like somebody that I know, or that I would have made any connection at all. But
Yeah.
I think that that's just showing you, the fact that you made the connection now is that you're far more in tune than you were at that point in time. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Just
And it feels good to share it and to hear your feedback on it. Because I mean, this is what I'm talking about. When you have friends that you trust and you're able to communicate in this way, and you're able to say, hey, this happened. And I just want to hear what you think of it, because it's not like seeking validation. It's really just asking, like, is this confirmation? Am I crazy for thinking this? Because sometimes you want that little check when it is so much bigger, and when you're newer to walking this way, in the sense, like, not that it's
but you're not newer to it. You're just remembering. That's all it is. You're not new to it. You're just remembering.
yes, yes, just remembering. And I think this is, even to go deeper, like a instance where I am claiming, because it's a lot to claim, a knowing of self. I think like that's a really big practice, that I do have this. Like, I see into the future a lot. I go into, I don't know why I do it a lot, but I'll always go into this weird gaze. Like, I'll just blank out and I'll zone out a lot of the time, and I'll just go somewhere else, and then I kind of come back and like, oh, that was weird. But I see something that hasn't happened yet. I'm like, it's a vision. It's like, whoa. And then it happens all the time. Like, there has not been an instance it has not happened. It has happened like prior to going to the retreat. I saw a vision, and all of us in the circle and in the specific dome and in the specific place. I was like, that's cool. Wonder where that is. I don't think anything of it, but then I get to the place, I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. I had a vision. This is cool. And I'll like happy dance for a second. I'm like, this is real. And I'm not sure even how to like progress in that way to like make it more of a, like, I want to connect and have it be something like, maybe I tune in more and it can be a regular thing, but I also don't think it needs to be a regular thing, or even if it could be.
Mm. I think to strengthen it, the first step would be to start writing these visions down. That
Yeah.
would be the first step. So then when they happen, you can even put like a little check mark next to it and be like, yep, that happened too. But also it just will strengthen your remembrance of these moments, and just like with your dreams as well.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's kind of the same vibe. Like if you write them down, these visions, I think you're gonna connect with them more. And also going back to the idea of prayer, like praying if you want to strengthen it more, asking for the assistance, asking for a clear sign on what needs to be done. And maybe even before you go to sleep, ask your guides to show you in that realm, because when you're going to sleep, you are not in the physical realm. You are already going into the astral realm. Even if you're not fully lucid or aware of it, they tend to show themselves when you're ready to be taught. And so if you're open to it and declaring that you're open to it, and I think that's going to really strengthen that more if you're looking to do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I love your feedback, and I love you so much. Oh, I just want to be in your embrace. I want to be with you. I miss our time together. Do you feel like there's anything else on your heart that you feel like sharing before we close out the podcast?
Can I talk about the retreat?
Yes, please.
Okay, so first of all, I hope you come. But this summer, May 31st to June 9th, I will be co-hosting the Manayi retreat with Paulina, dear sister Paulina. And all of the things we talked about in this podcast will be at the forefront. So lots of spirit-related connections, attuning your psychic abilities, astrology, blood rituals, like everything you can think of will be in that space. So and it will be a sisters gathering. So it is limited to sisters this time, even though last time it happened organically. This time it is only for sisters. So I hope I see you there, Isabelle, and anyone else that wants to come. But I really hope I see you there.
It it's already done. It's already done.
You just got to have a vision.
Exactly. It's already done. I'll just have a little vision. I'll tell you about it when it happens, and it's complete. I cannot recommend this retreat enough. I can't because what happened for me in that time with all the sisters plus Zen, to go through the practices and the experiences and the opening and the softening and the remembering and just taking a step back from the hustle bustle life. I was more myself in that week with everyone than I have been in my whole life.
I agree with that.
That is powerful. Like, we all just got to be, and there's no judgment. But I don't know if you felt this. I felt this. I felt when everyone got there, like there are some more in their feminine, some more in their masculine, some holding the ground. And I really feel like as the week went by, we all naturally shifted on this wavelength. Like, we all came and synced. And then whoever was moving out of feminine moved into masculine, and whoever moved into masculine was into feminine. And like some held the balance or the ground. And I really felt that strong awareness. Like, yeah, we really did that. And I felt like we all moved in this wave. I was like, this is heaven.
I never thought about it like that, but as I'm thinking about it, that is 100% true. Everybody got exactly what they needed from the retreat. And there were some really powerful transformations, I think, that we witnessed as well within ourselves and within other sisters that were there. And yeah.
I want to hear, for everyone to hear, like, what was your favorite activity or ritual or ceremony or even event, like outing, that we did together?
For me, the most powerful thing that I experienced was the grief ceremony that we held. Without a doubt, it was the first time I've experienced something like that, and I think it is one of the more necessary events and things that we need to hold down in our day nowadays. And yeah, that was a powerful grief ceremony. Everybody screaming and crying and putting their sorrows in the fire, it felt like. And yeah, we need to tend to our sorrows. We don't always have to feel crappy alone. And even though to be clear, we weren't feeling crappy this retreat. It wasn't a big sad retreat. We just had one evening where we held a grief ceremony where we could transmute our sorrows. And I feel like we did the damn thing. That's what I feel like.
Yes. Yes, a million times. I felt so, that was my favorite part as well. I felt so held and safe. I sat next to you. I felt very called, like, yep, I want to go like be next to someone who I feel comfortable with. And then sweet Paulina was just right across from us. I was like, yeah, this is like how we were all placed and with the music and the what came out. I was like, yep, all right. I've never witnessed such intensity between women. I think there's a reason there's fear of women coming together in circle and having the space to release, to love, to gather, to have moments of direct connection, because that was surreal. I mean, it was, yeah, beyond
This
life.
it's powerful to an extent that I haven't ever experienced before. And I agree with you why there's fear of women coming together. I didn't think about that before you said that now, but it's so true. We're so powerful. And I can say that I've always been the type of girl that's like, I am a guy's girl. All my friends are guys. No, 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 blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
We need women around us. And this is something that I've been discovering and continuing to discover over the last year or so, that there's nothing like having the bonds of sisters around you, or even if they're not physically around you, at least in your life.
Yeah.
Uh, nowadays when everything is virtual, although sometimes you might feel alone when people aren't next to you, energy does not know distance, and having sisters is so important. Like there's nothing more important, I think. Of course, we want love, we want partnership, we want that, but having our quilt of sisters, we are connected in a way that is difficult to explain. Like it is so difficult. It's not, words cannot explain the connection that women have with one another. And I do hope that men feel the same way with one another too. I don't say that as being above or below anyone. It's just something that is impossible to explain, the bond between women that really fully accept and acknowledge and love one another.
Yes, I see you, I hear you, I love you. It is that practice, because we don't grow up knowing that's safe. I didn't. All personal experience.
Yeah.
I sure as didn't. I was also a guy's girl. All my friends are guys. I get along with guys. All girls don't like me. They're afraid of me. I'm blah 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 blah. Like all of these
Happy, they're this, they're gossipy, they're that, they're blah blah. Like
yeah,
what? Who taught us that?
yes. And why is that the limitation we have to create for ourselves? Like we create the fortress around
Yeah.
us that does not let other women in. So that, I mean, this whole year or last year, and then getting to that retreat was that bursting. Like, you're allowed to be loved by sisters. It was the first time I held hands with a girl. I was like, I'm holding hands with a girl. I'm holding hands with a girl. I don't know how to feel right now. Why is this weird? Why do I feel like this? And it was really interesting.
Oh yeah.
So, everyone, I'll put the link for the retreat in the show notes. And I would love, I'm sending this out, that I get to have a podcast beforehand with you and Paulina to talk way more about this and a trifecta. That would be
Cool.
beautiful. So
Sure, we can make it work.
yeah, I think it'll make its way into the physical. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Tal, for coming onto the podcast again and just sharing your story, sharing what you've been going through, what the tides of life have been washing up and then washing away. And yeah, the message of listening, surrendering, pausing, connecting with nature, learning about your ancestry, giving your blood back to the mother earth.
Amen.
Amen. So, everyone, thank you. Please check out the Manayi retreat. It is life-changing, and I'm sure it will be really warm there in May, which I'm even eager about. I'm like, it was warm when we went, but it will be hot when we go. So, thank you, everyone. Love you, and we'll talk to you on the next podcast.
Thank you for having me. I love you.
Love you.